They say you never truly know someone until you divorce them. I used to think that was just a cynical line people threw around when they were bitter. Now I know it's the only absolute truth in marriage. My name is Mark. 3 years ago, I thought I had the life everyone dreams of. I was 32, working as a senior structural engineer. My wife, Sarah, was 30, a rising star in pharmaceutical sales. We had been married for 7 years, together for 10. We were that couple. You know the one. The couple that finishes each other's sentences. The couple that friends look at and say, well, at least Mark and Sarah are solid. We had just closed on our forever home, a beautiful 4-bedroom colonial in the suburbs. We were talking about trying for kids. The timeline was set. The finances were perfect. Or so I thought. Looking back, the signs were there. They always are. But when you trust someone blindly, you don't see red flags. You just see quirks. You see stress. You make excuses for them because the alternative, that the person sleeping next to you is a stranger, is too terrifying to confront. It started subtly. Sarah got a promotion. That meant more travel, more late nights, client dinners, she called them. She started dressing differently, not for me, but for work. New lingerie that I only saw in the laundry basket, never on her. She put a passcode on her phone. She said it was company policy because of sensitive client data. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was my wife.
One Tuesday night in November, she came home at 11 p.m. She smelled like expensive wine and something else. A cologne that wasn't mine. Cedarwood and musk. I asked her how the dinner went. She smiled, kicked off her heels, and said, "Boring, just old men talking about quarterly projections." But she wouldn't look me in the eye. She went straight to the shower. That night, lying in bed while she pretended to sleep, I felt a knot in my stomach, a cold, hard stone of intuition. I reached out to touch her shoulder, and she flinched, just a tiny movement, but it screamed 1,000 words. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I was insecure. But the doubt is a virus. Once it gets in, it multiplies. For the next 2 months, I lived in a state of low-grade torture. I tried to talk to her. I asked if she was happy. "You're being suffocating, Mark," she told me. "You're so insecure it's unattractive. I'm working my ass off for our future, and you're interrogating me?" She turned it around on me. She made me feel small. She made me apologize for suspecting her. That's the part that hurts the most now. The fact that I apologized to her while she was lying to my face. The breaking point was a stupid mistake on her part. Technology is a cheater's worst enemy, and Sarah wasn't tech-savvy. We had a shared data plan. I was reviewing the bill, just doing the monthly budget, and I noticed one number, texted at 6 a.m., called at 11 p.m., FaceTime calls that lasted an hour while she was supposedly at the gym. I ran the number. It didn't belong to a client. It belonged to Gavin, her regional manager, a guy I had met at the Christmas party, a guy who shook my hand, smiled at me, and drank my beer. But a phone number isn't proof, not in a court of law, and not in the court of marriage. I needed more. I needed to be sure before I blew up my life. I bought a voice-activated recorder, tiny thing, looks like a USB drive. I Velcroed it under the passenger seat of her car. 2 days later, she said she was going to a team building retreat for the weekend. I kissed her goodbye. I told her I loved her. I watched her drive away. When she came back on Sunday evening, she looked glowing, happy. She told me all about the seminars. That night, while she slept, I went out to the garage. I retrieved the recorder. I sat in my car, plugged in my headphones, and listened. It took 10 minutes of scrubbing through silence and road noise. Then, I heard it. Gavin's voice. God, I missed you. Sarah's voice, the voice I fell in love with. I know, Mark is being such a drag lately. I almost feel bad for him. Almost. I listened to them for hours. I listened to them drive to a hotel. I heard things no husband should ever hear. They laughed about me. They mocked me. Gavin asked if I suspected anything. Sarah laughed. Mark? No, he's too soft. He'd never leave me. He pays the mortgage, Gavin. I'm not going anywhere until the house equity goes up. I sat in that cold garage until sunrise. Something inside me died that night. The Mark who loved her, the Mark who wanted kids, the Mark who was soft. He was gone. What was left was something cold, something calculating. I didn't storm into the bedroom. I didn't scream. I didn't wake her up. I walked back into the house, made coffee, and greeted her with a smile when she woke up. How was the retreat? I asked. Great, she said, pouring milk into her cereal. Good, I said, and I began to plan. If you take one thing from this story, let it be this. Information is ammunition. Never fire your gun until you have a full clip. I knew that if I confronted her now, she'd gaslight me, she'd hide assets, she'd spin the narrative to our friends and family that I was abusive or crazy. So I played the long game. I went to a divorce lawyer the next day, a shark. I told him everything. I played him the tape. He told me that in our state, infidelity affects alimony, but we needed definitive proof of asset dissipation. Basically, was she spending our money on him? I dug into the finances. I found the hotel charges on a credit card she thought I didn't check. Dinners, gifts, a $500 watch for Gavin's birthday. I documented everything. I made copies of her texts. I guessed her passcode. It was the year she met Gavin. I backed up photos. Then I focused on the house. We had substantial equity, but we had just refinanced. I spoke to a realtor friend privately. I arranged for a valuation. But the real weapon wasn't financial, it was social. I found out Gavin was married too. Her name was Jessica. She was a pediatric nurse. They had 2 kids. My lawyer advised me to wait. Let them get comfortable, he said. Let them make a mistake. For 3 months, I played the loving husband. It was the hardest acting role of my life. I cooked dinner. I asked about her day. I watched her text Gavin under the dinner table. Every time she smiled at her phone, I added another 0 to the mental settlement check. Then the opportunity arrived. Sarah told me she had a, quote, week-long conference in Miami. It was their big annual getaway. I checked Gavin's social media through a fake account. He was traveling for business to Miami the same week. Perfect. While she was packing her bikini for a business conference, I was packing my life. The day she left, I waited for her Uber to turn the corner. Then I called the movers. I had scheduled them weeks in advance.
I didn't just move out. I scrubbed the house. I took half the furniture. I took the electronics. I took the sentimental items. I left her the bed, the couch, and the kitchen table. But here is where the revenge gets creative. I knew Sarah hated embarrassment more than anything. She thrived on her image. I printed out the chat logs, the explicit ones, the ones where they mocked me, the ones where they mocked Gavin's wife and his annoying kids. I put them in a nice leather-bound binder. I left it on the kitchen counter with a note, "For your reading pleasure." Then, I drained our joint savings account. Legally, I was allowed to take 50%. I took exactly 50%, down to the penny, and moved it to a new account at a different bank. I canceled the joint credit cards. Then, I went to Gavin's house. I didn't scream at Jessica. I knocked on her door at 6 p.m. She looked tired. I introduced myself. I told her I had something she needed to see. I handed her a USB drive with the audio recordings and a copy of the hotel receipts from Miami. I said, "My wife is with your husband in Miami right now. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. I thought you should know." She didn't cry. She just went pale. She thanked me. That woman had eyes of steel. I knew Gavin was walking into a slaughterhouse. I blocked Sarah on everything: phone, email, social media. The only way she could reach me was through my lawyer. 3 days later, the conference ended early. I wasn't there, but my Ring doorbell was. I still had access to the cameras. I watched Sarah pull up in a taxi. I watched her try to use her credit card to pay the driver, and it was declined. She had to use cash. She walked up to the door, confused because her key didn't work. I had rekeyed the locks and left her key under the mat, as stated in the lawyer's letter inside. She got in. I watched her walk through the empty living room. I watched her pick up the leather binder. She called me, straight to voicemail. She texted me, undelivered. Then the storm hit. I heard later that Jessica, Gavin's wife, didn't just divorce Gavin, she went nuclear. She forwarded the emails and texts, specifically the ones where they discussed using company funds for their dates, to their company's HR department and the board of directors. Gavin and Sarah worked for a publicly traded company with a strict code of ethics regarding manager-subordinate relationships and expense fraud. 2 days after returning from Miami, Sarah was called into HR. She was fired for cause. No severance, no reference. Gavin was fired too.
The divorce took a year. Sarah tried to fight for the house, but without a job and with the proof of infidelity affecting the financial division, she had no leg to stand on. We had to sell the house. In this market, we made a profit, but she had to use her half to pay off the credit card debt she had racked up trying to maintain her lifestyle while unemployed. She tried to reach out a few times, handwritten letters sent to my parents' house. Apologies. I made a mistake. I miss us. Gavin meant nothing. I never replied. Not once. Silence is the loudest noise you can make to a narcissist. Gavin's wife took him to the cleaners. He lives in a studio apartment now. As for me, it took time. I went to therapy. I hit the gym. Cliché, I know, but it works. I focused on my career. I traveled to Japan, something Sarah never wanted to do. I'm dating again now, a woman named Elena. She's kind, she's honest, and when she says she's working late, I don't feel that knot in my stomach. Revenge isn't about hurting the other person. It's about respecting yourself enough to ensure their actions have consequences. Sarah thought I was soft. She thought I was a safe bet who would never leave. She was right about one thing. I was soft. But fire hardens clay into brick, and she's the one who lit the match. If you're listening to this and you have that feeling in your gut, trust it. Don't confront them until you're ready. Gather your evidence, protect your assets, and when you strike, strike once and strike hard. Thanks for listening.